Chapter 28. Fly in the spring like a bird.
I respect your decision, but I can't help feeling disappointed.
Colonel Farrell, the commanding officer of the military forces, looked at Matthias with a faint smile. Matthias remained still.
I feel like I'm losing a capable officer. Well, it would be a greater loss for this empire if Duke Herhart were to continue serving in the army with his competencies. However, speaking from the standpoint of a soldier, I'm a little upset,
He said. The sense of disappointment and loss in his eyes was earnest. Captain Herhart, his most trusted underling, who was due to remain in the service for another year, had unexpectedly changed his mind. Imagined his surprise when a paper was delivered to his desk. Instead of the document to extend his service period, a letter of resignation was sent to him. It was his wish that Matthias would stay, but Colonel Farrell had no reason to detain him since the grounds for his appeal, as stated in the letter, was none other than his grandmother, the Duchess of Herhart.
Thank you for all this time.
Matthias thanked him politely. He always showed due respect for his superiors, even though the Duke of Herhart was a considerably higher-ranking nobleman, based on social status. His attitude was markedly different from that of other aristocratic officials, who were often unable to differentiate between public and private affairs. Colonel Farrell admired Matthias for that. Secondly, if considering his meritorious service to the empire, his first task by selecting the front line, a problematic area of the outpost, was noteworthy.
Make sure to visit me when you come to Rats.
Matthias was more than glad to comply with the colonel's request for a farewell handshake.
Yes, Colonel.
He shook his superior's hand firmly and exited through the colonel's office door, having been entirely freed of his duties. The outpouring of the spring, sunshine drifted across a clear, blue sky, welcoming his steps once he walked out onto the street. Matthias got into his car and drove toward Ratz's downtown. He had to go to several places to meet with some of his other superiors. It was only after then, the farewell activities for his retirement, which had been rolling on for several days, were finally brought to an end. When he was about to walk up to his waiting vehicle, something went by and halted him in his tracks. Matthias turned his eyes towards the end of the road across the street. Over there, came to his sight a figure he used to know.
Leila.
A woman who turned out to be none other than Leila Llewellyn was walking the road, leisurely along the promenade, at the downtown area.
Master.
The driver approached him as he stood still and didn't get into the car.
Go back first.
Matthias ordered him while keeping his gaze fixed on the opposite side of the road.
It's Leila. No way. She couldn't possibly be here.
Straight away, with broad strides, he got across the road. The museum she visited was huge. Leila looked around in amazement at the magnificent building of the Berg Empire Natural History Museum, the same way she did on her first day setting foot in this place. The day after arriving at Rat City, Kyle took Leila on her first visit to this place. The Art History Museum and the Natural History Museum, which sat across the street, opposite to each other, and were said to be places of Ratz's greatest pride. Leila had grown used to the grandeur of Carlsbad City, which was reputed to be on par with the splendor of the capital, but she remained so mesmerized by the architectural wonders that lined the streets of Rats every time she passed through them. The girls at her school who toured the capital often gushed about how beautiful the Art History Museum was. Still, Leila unhesitatingly chose the Natural History Museum to be named the owner of the most beautiful architecture. As Kyle described it, the museum was like a piece of heaven on earth for her. All she could think about was how vast the museum was and how impossible it seemed to be for her to explore every corner of the building in just a single day. Leila was eager to devote her entire day exploring this place to the fullest extent possible. She also had planned to empty her schedule on the last day to come here once again before leaving Rat City. Hopefully, she would be able to view the whole of the museum's collection and accomplish her mission. Having finally made up her mind, Leila was raring to go and walked into the museum foyer with a spring in her step. Literally, Kyle wished to accompany her today, but Leila shunned his goodwill. Unlike her, who had completed her exam the day before. He was just getting started with his exam tomorrow morning, though Kyle was full of confidence in his brains and had studied in advance. Leila didn't want to bring him here for sightseeing just one day before the exam. Before entering the exhibition hall, Leila once again double-checked her outfit, making sure there was not a single hair out of place.
Comfortable shoes checked. Notebook and pen checked. Stamina in full, I'm ready to go.
After drawing out a notebook and pen from her bag, Leila stepped into the viewing gallery, which she hadn't had a chance to see on the first day of her arrival. Leila Llewellyn today was just like a child at a picnic. Matias stood at a safe distance away, quietly watching her as she strode through several spacious exhibit galleries. Without a trace of tiredness devouring her, Matias was already convinced that the woman's back he saw going inside the Natural History Museum belonged to Leila, so he quietly followed her while keeping his distance. Curiosity got the better of him, leaving him wondering what the hell she was up to. But soon after seeing what she was doing, Matias was willing to wait and keep a closer eye on her. As he waited, Matias suddenly reminded about the college entrance exam that took place in the capital around this time. Seeing that she had traveled to the capital city to take the test, Matias concluded that she had decided to continue her study at the college. So was her marriage to Kyle Ettman as well. Leila was standing in front of a glass display case containing various plant specimens, diligently penning things down in her notebook. Sometimes her lips were tinged with a smile, and her face took on a jolly beam as if she was looking at a precious jewel. Matias was hard to believe that a mere plant sample could elicit such a giggle from her face. In the end, Matias decided to stalk her a bit further, but he didn't go any closer since he knew her joy would perish whenever she saw him. Matias folded his hands behind his back and slowly trailed in her footsteps at the same pace. He hadn't seen her since last summer, and Leila didn't seem to have changed much since then. Even yet, there was only a slight changeover in her delicate appearance from before. Her face had become slimmer, her expression looked more gentle, and every movement of her body appeared more graceful as time went on. Donning a lace-embellished white dress, Leila seemed more mature than she was before. After she had been there long enough, Leila left the herbarium exhibition room and abruptly stopped for a while in front of the passage leading to the next gallery. Matias was able to figure out what had piqued her attention. The passageway that ran between the two exhibition rooms was conjured up in such a way and incarnated like a heavenly place. The branches, painted with silvery hue, were decorated with white feathers and garland hanging like leaves. As the light trickled in through the window glass, the colorful bird-shaped crystal ornaments draping all over the branches reflected its rays. They created a dreamlike atmosphere to the eye, reminiscent of a fairy tale realm, enhancing the magical beauty of the space even more.
Gosh.
Leila's naive admiration came to his attention. Matias couldn't keep a smile off his face as he watched her run about with such abandon. Her wavy blonde hair and the hem of her dress bounced with her as she sprinted excitedly inside the area, like a little girl at a playground. In the middle of that beautiful passage, Leila halted her steps. She stretched out her hand towards the branches, but her fingertips were unable to grasp the bird-shaped ornament. Leila was still staring up at the ceiling, gazing in awe, when Matias sauntered and walked straight off to her side. Before she had a chance to realize his presence, Matias already grabbed her by the waist and lifted her body off the ground. Leila jolted in surprise when she floated into the air. She turned her head, and a crystal bird, which had previously been beyond her reach, was now right in front of her eyes. She felt like she could fly like a bird in the spring and go anywhere, as if she were dreaming with her eyes open. It was strange, but breathtaking moment. Matias dropped her down to the floor and acted as if nothing had happened. The hem of her voluminous, puffy white dress slid down her calves and caressed her skin softly on the inside. Leila raised her head and hid her hand that had touched the crystal bird behind her back. Matias slowly took off his officer's hat. His pairs of blue eyes, bluer than the sky at the end of the summer, were fixed on her with a dazzling vividity. Below the museum's dome was a little cafe selling refreshments where visitors could rest and refuel their stomachs. Leila and Kyle had already had lunch at that place when they came on the first day of their visit. Matias took the lead in heading there. Knowing the meaning, Leila stood still, a scowl on her face.
It was nice to meet you, Duke. I'm going to take my leave now.
At her words, Matias turned around. Leila steeled herself, bowed her head in greeting, and began to walk to the other way.
There.
He commanded. She refused to comply and took a few more steps, but at the end she failed to escape. Matias had passed by her and blocked her way.
What's wrong with you?
Leila looked around her and asked sharply. Some passers-by narrowed their eyes, staring at them in a bit of wonder.
I hate it.
What?
Someone like you, I hate it.
Matias' arrogant attitude suddenly drove her up a wall. You can't be like this to me. Leila clasped the straps of her bag, which she was carrying over her shoulders, her hands trembling nervously.
I mean, do you want to do something that we shouldn't do?
A smile teased the corner of his lips as he stated it in a somewhat sarcastic tone. For a short moment, a maddening rush swept through Leila's body and knitted her brows in disbelief.
No.
Both of her hands began to shake fiercely after Matias made such offensive remarks.
Never.
A sharp feeling of heat seared Leila's cheeks. Her face became blazing red as she seethed with rage. The humiliation Matias piled on her had trodden on her toes, mainly because how aloof and arrogant he was when he said so. After a few moments of looking around his surroundings, Matias returned his gaze to her.
I want to buy a cup of tea for an orphan who lives on my estate I happened to meet while in the capital city. What's wrong with me being kindness?
His attitude consistently unabashed even when he said something disrespectful.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Matias spoke coldly. His face lost its grin.
Isn't that right, Leila?
Ending his question that he had answered himself, Matias slithered his way to the cafe. Leila let out a long, weak sigh as she looked at his back. Though she didn't know Duke Herhard very well, she now knew one crucial aspect about him: achieving everything he desired at whatever cost. The more challenging something was to get, the more valuable it was to own. That man always had to get what he wanted. Giving up, Leila walked behind the Duke with heaviness in her stride. They were sitting across from each other. Shortly after the takeout order was made, the waiter brought 2 cups of steaming hot coffee to their table. The teacup billowed a cloud of white smoke, which rose into the air, had been laid between the 2 people who were appearing to be silent.
I never thought I'd meet you by coincidence in a place like this.
Leila opened the conversation with some trepidation. She was feeling awkward with the stillness between them, so she decided to speak up first.
In the Natural History Museum. Do you?
I'm not interested.
Matias cut her words, taking a sip of his coffee.
You already know it, Leila.
A smirk hung on the corner of his lips.
I have absolutely no interest in these kinds of things.
Then why you?
You already know it's not a coincidence.
No.
Leila replied reflexively. Her whole body grew tense, and her heart began to beat in a blue funk. She would rather be an impoverished orphan who would get pity from him. She didn't want to be seen as something else by this man in any way.
All I know is...
The sound of her voice was a bundle in nerves, and Leila gulped back her agitation for a moment.
All I know is just that you hate me.
Leila closed her eyes, as if she were trying to erase the horrifying memories of their first kiss that suddenly dawned on her, but it was to no avail. Once she blinked her eyes to see, Matias' blue eyes were still fixed on her, and those memories flooded back in, anchoring her to the nightmare once again.
Right? I hate you.
Matias assented her words with ease. A smile bloomed on his face.
Now, I terribly hate you, Leila.